What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Big Boy Project. We're back with another episode, and we have a special guest today, Victor. And Victor actually sent me a message on Facebook talking about his book. And I said, sure, I don't mind reading people's books and stuff like that. And he actually sent me a copy of his book in the mail. I was reading it, and it's such a good book. It's such a good book. You are on a roller coaster ride. For me, I had a couple of laughs, a couple of sad moments, a couple of happy moments, a couple of annoying moments. To me, that would make a good book where you sit there reading, you go through all kinds of emotions while you're reading it. My first question: what made you want to write this book in the first place?
Since 2000, a lot of people have asked me to tell my story that knew about the criminal part of my life. And they asked me to tell my story, and I didn't really want to do that. But started as a college essay in 2002. And last year after I moved to Dallas, a couple of people that I had met on two separate occasions learned a little bit about me and said, you know what, you need to write a book. Your life really needs to be told. And I thought, okay, God, if this is your way of asking me to do this, I'm going to finally listen and I'm going to do it. And so I pulled out the electronic version and I updated it from 2007 to 2015, and it went from there.
Okay. Was the writing process more difficult? Rethinking everything from the past, was it more difficult?
The abusive relationship was probably the hardest thing that I had to retackle. Dealing with the situation where my mother was a little bit kind of like, okay, here we're going through this again. It is what it is. I've done this, blah, blah, blah. I will say I have not fully read the completed version because I didn't want to relive those moments again, especially the abusive relationship and the heartbreak of a relationship. I didn't want to relive those moments. So I didn't, during the week that I put it out, that I was rewriting it with my editor, it was a very dark week. So the idea of rereading the complete package was just a little bit too much for me, and I still haven't done that yet.
Okay. Like, what was your writing process during the day? Did you write for a couple of days then stop, or you just wanted to, when the moment hits you, you wanted to write? Like, what was your writing process?
No, I dove into it right away because up until birth into 2007 was already complete, but I didn't know that I was writing a book when I was doing it. So from 2007 to 2015, when I pulled it out to update it, I just dove into it, and I took a couple of weeks to just really dive into it. And I knew had I waited, it wouldn't have been done. So I knew for me to dive into it, it was one of those situations that it had to happen when it did, or it wouldn't have been done.
So how long did it really take you to write the book in general?
Well, like I said, from 2002 to 2007, I would add anything significant that were happening to my life. So I would say basically it's been a work in progress since a college essay started in 2002, without knowing that it was going to turn into what it turned into.
Childhood, from what you say in the book, I'm not trying to give it away because I want people to read it. You said that one of your family members taught you how to steal.
Yes, my mother, yes.
Like, you said it was a thrill. Like, explain to the people who, don't know that feeling, what the feeling's like when, you go in to steal.
It's almost like any other feeling that brings you that high that you look for, whether it is from drinking, doing drugs, sex, or whatever. It's pretty much that type of feeling. And I didn't know at the time that was the feeling because my dad was very abusive to my mother. And I remember when I was 5 years old, he had beat her up really bad. And we were out in the yard, my mom and I was riding my tricycle. And I said to her, I'm going to kill him when I grow up. And when they finally split a little over a year later, and we were in this grocery store, and she put a pack of pork chops in my jacket and asked me to follow her out of the store. I thought, okay, I'm doing what a child is, told to do. And then I realized, I can do what makes her happy. Because for years, all my life, I had seen her from acknowledgement of her being so unhappy from being in the abusive relationship with my dad. Because my dad is very, very hateful. Even to this day, he's very hateful. And so when I did that, and it brought her like, okay, I got what I wanted. I thought, okay, well, this is what she wants me to do. So that became my life until I was 21 when I went to prison.
Okay. But since you're talking about prison, what was your first thoughts coming into prison? Like your first time?
So let's just back up. So my first time being taken out of the home was into a juvenile facility when I was 12. And I went into a detention home. That was really eye-opening because I had never been forced to leave my home. And going into this detention home, being around all these tough boys, girls, and, having that structure over you where you can't go to sleep when you want to, you can't eat when you want to, and, you can't go home. That was really tough. That was very tough. But then, because my mother wasn't telling me that I was doing wrong, nothing the court system or the juvenile system could tell me to convince me that I was doing wrong. So it was a situation where, okay, I'm going to keep doing what I know what I need to do for my mother. Because also by this time, I was making money and I had access to any and everything that I wanted in life. When I walked into a store, literally, as I said in the book, I owned it. My mindset was when I walked in there, literally, it just felt like it's mine. Anything I want, I'm going to get out of here. And that's pretty much how I felt about things.
Right.
So going into the system, outside of being away from my home, that was the only thing that really impacted my life. But being in there, because I've always been not scared of anything. I've always been one that felt like, I would fight if I had to. I would tough out any situation. But going into prison the first time, it was a little scary at first. But once I got in there and acknowledged who I was and let other people see who I was good. I was good. I didn't care. You
also said in your book that you had many relationships in prison as well. Kind of talk about that.
So being gay was a very hard thing for me. And even to this day, I struggle with it. I was just at a holiday party this afternoon, and I was discussing it with a psychologist and another friend. And they don't understand how I'm at my age and still struggle with being gay. But I do. And so the learnings of being gay and the experiences that the bulk of my experiences were from being incarcerated. I've only been in 2 considered real relationships, and they were both in prison. The first one I gave my heart and got it. The first one I was in a very abusive, physically and emotionally abusive relationship. And the second one I gave my heart and I got it broken. But it was I look at everything in life and try to acknowledge that it was meant for me to go down this path to get to where I am right now. And I feel like those are situations that I had to go through that had to be in that type of environment for me to get the learning from it that I received.
And I remember you, from reading your book, you also said that you, at a certain point when you couldn't take it, you had to talk to somebody like a therapist. What was your mindset at the time when you said, okay, I really have to talk to somebody?
Well, it wasn't my choice to go to talk to somebody. I was more so embarrassed than anything, James, because this was during the time I was in the abusive relationship. And this was with a guy who was a kingpin out in society. And he had people running from him. Do you remember that movie, In Too Deep, with LL and Omar Epps? He was kind of like 10 times worse than LL was, ego-wise, because he had a lot of money, he had a lot of power. And when he came into the system, he still had that mindset that he was still that kingpin type guy. And even though he was in prison, he still had access to a lot of drugs coming in prison. And I mean, he had people ODing off of raw heroin. And he chose me in the city jail. And things were fine there. But then once we got in the prison system and he saw that you guys knew me, they were speaking, became very jealous. And it became a very situation of terror for me, where when he first put his hands on me, it was like, okay, I realized getting away from you is not going to be as easy as I thought it would be. You know, because it wasn't a thing where, I can just, okay, I don't want to deal with you anymore. And that was that. Because he had the captain in his back pocket. So I don't know what their situation was, but when I saw the captain let him move into my dorm, I knew then that it was a situation. And he literally ran the entire camp. And we had probably 1,300 guys on this camp. He ran the entire camp.
Yeah.
So it was a very dangerous situation. And I began to break out in Webster hives. I developed a stress issue.
Right.
And I would go to the nurse and she would put me on Benadryl, and I would go to get a refill. And one day I went to get a refill and she said, I don't know what you're going through, but whatever it is, you're going to have a nervous breakdown. So if you don't stop, you're going to actually have this breakdown. It could be detrimental to your health. So I said to her, I'm good, or something to that effect. And she said, I want you to see someone. So I thought she was sending me to a medical doctor. Turns out she was sending me to a therapist. And for me to get in there and he tells me what he's there for, I thought, I don't want to talk to you. And then the conversations continued, and I realized it was easy to open up to him, and I needed that outlet. And he helped me out a lot. He really did. That was the first therapist I went to.
Do you still go see a therapist now, or you feel like, okay, I got everything out?
Sometimes I will go. It's not a schedule thing. It's
right.
as a needed thing. I'll go because I still struggle with being gay. And I know the gay community is going to kill me for saying that. But I struggle with being gay. And I was just talking about that today. And I think it's because maybe inside of me, there's this little boy who wants the family connection that I don't have with my parents and my siblings. But I think I haven't reached that point. Now, with anyone outside of my family, I say, if you don't accept me, it is what it is. But with my family, because they don't, I struggle with that. So I think that is probably the only reason that I go. But even after today, with not knowing that I was actually having a couch session with a therapist,
right?
I'm probably in a better place. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Mark, you had any questions so far?
He answered pretty much all of my questions about, like, what got you to write the book and how long it took you to write the book. And I guess since I haven't read the book, what are some of the highlights of writing the book for you?
So my mother put me in the life of crime when I was 6 years old. Okay. She had me shoplifting for her, and that became my hustle. And even I was eventually 2 prison sentences, and it was on the second prison sentence where everything really started to come to formation with my life. I was in an abusive relationship, in a relationship that got my heart broken. And it was also on that sentence that I discovered that my mother had manipulated me, because up until that time, nothing anyone could ever say to me about my mother, you could just talk to me about her in a negative way. Mm-hmm. And it was so weird. I got my second parole turned down, and I went into the deepest depression I think that I've ever experienced. And I was going to attempt suicide again. And this stranger who said to me, why are you here? And I said to him, I got caught, and he said, why are you here? And so then I said, because I got busted or something to that effect. And he asked me again, and I got really frustrated. And mind you, I'm 23 years old at this time. So I'm thinking, you know what? I'm just going to get up and walk away. And he was like, sit down. And he just yelled it to me, and it scared me. And so I sat down, and he said, I'm going to ask you again, why are you here? And I want you to think about it before you answer me. And it was as if like that Waterfalls video from TLC when they went back in time.
Right.
And I was taken back to that grocery store, which was called Winn-Dixie at the time, when my mother put that pack of pork chops in my jacket. Up until that point, I guess I had subconsciously blocked it out. I didn't think about it. But it was at that moment that it hit me. My mother is who started me along this path and who has encouraged me to do this. And that's why I am in prison at this moment. And that's when it was just like a ball of fire just fell over me. I just became enraged.
Yes.
And because up until this point, and I remember each time I would go into juvenile court, there was this Commonwealth attorney named John Greenbacker. He would just rattle my mother. I mean, he would just accuse her. She would be sitting in the gallery, and he would blame her because the things that I was getting caught stealing were not things of a child. At my age, I may steal a toy or some candy, but I'm stealing household things,
Right.
And he's like, it's her fault. And I would get so angry because he would blame her. But that moment while I was in prison, and I thank God, because I do believe at that time that was God that did that, because this was stranger, he didn't know me. And he just, older guy, he had done a lot of time, and he just took it upon himself to ask me these questions, which brought me to the revelation that my mother had been the source of my trouble. And it was a very difficult day. And I remember thinking, okay, I cannot approach her with this in the visiting room, that I would have to wait until I got home. But every time that I would go in the visiting room and see her, it was very hard, because I'm not good with being phony.
Yeah.
I'm not good with being phony at all. But I would see her, and I would sit across the table from her, and I remember I would hug her, and I would bring her, and I would like, you know, it was just like, oh, you know. And the day came when I did come home, and I had this conversation with her, and she denied it all. I don't know what you're talking about. Now, the thing that got me with that was, I'm looking around her house and I'm seeing things that I had boosted that she still kept, because my mother is like a hoarder. She keeps everything.
Right.
I got her a really expensive china set. It was like a 300-piece china set when I was probably 11 or 12. She still has that to date. She still has it in her china cabinet. A really nice set of porcelain pots and pans with the solid brass handle. She still have that. Probably got that in like 1984, 1985. She still has it. So my thing with her is, I'm looking around your house and I'm seeing you telling me you didn't do this. So, you know, growing up, I remember she used to actually boast with her friends. She would say, all I got to do is say I want something. My son would hear it and he would go get it. And when I was putting this book together, I was reminded, as I was reflecting back, because I always had a magnet type memory. I remember everything. And I remember she would be around me on the phone, like, God, I sure wish I had this. I sure wish I had that. And I would just hear it and go get it. And now, when I was putting the book together, I thought, well, maybe she really wasn't even talking to anyone at the time, but maybe that was easing her consciousness of saying, Victor, go do this.
Right.
But,
plant that seed.
Go ahead.
Said plant that seed.
Right. So she ended up, because I did one interview and they asked me, well, did your mother ever get caught for this? Well, they could never pinpoint this on her, because my sisters and I would never roll over on her. But all three of us have criminal records because of her. And I'm the one with the most extensive record because I have the felonies. But when my little sister and my mom told me one day, she had a boyfriend at that time, said, you know, he needs some work clothes. Go get him some work. They was working in this industrial plant. They got really cold. And so she wanted me to get him some work clothes. So I went to the store and I got him some Dickies and some thick socks and some long johns. I ended up getting caught later. Well, a family friend who was with us called her at work and told her I got caught. My sister and I got caught together. And she apparently somehow during communication was told what I had. She went to the store and bought the same things and brought the receipt to the sheriff's department to say, he didn't steal this stuff. Here's the receipt, not acknowledging it was timestamped. So they couldn't get her for the things they wanted to get her for. But what they did get her for was, I think it was accessory, aiding and abetting or something like that. And they gave her the maximum. They put her in jail for 45 days because of it. So that was, you know, clarity and, you know, solidation that you participated in this. Even though you refused to acknowledge you did, you participated in this, you know. And that was like in 1987.
What was the day you said, okay, she's not getting it, let me leave her alone?
Well, I came home in 2000. I had the conversation with her let me back up. So when my little sister found out that I was coming home before I found out I was coming home, because she was bugging the parole board every day. And when they found out, my mother decided she wanted to have me this party. I didn't want a party, but she threw this party anyway. And that was a whole humiliation thing where I put in the book where she kind of made me feel like I would never go to another function at her house. But it was probably the couple of days after that party. So I would say it hadn't been a month since I've been home that I had this conversation with her to say, you know, we need to have a conversation about why I've done the things that I've done. And she was like, well, Victor, what are you talking about? And I said, you have taught me this behavior. And I did this all my life because of things that you wanted and things that you put in me.
Right.
I don't know what I was expecting when I brought this up. I don't know if it was an apology or acceptance or whatever, but she denied it all. I mean, just denied it. She didn't, and even to this day, she's denied the book. We don't speak, so I haven't spoken to her in years, but I've gotten word. Actually, she told one of my cousins to tell me that I don't have an immediate family, that I am no longer her child. And I understand that she's thrown all my pictures out of the house. And yeah, but everyone in the family knew that she was doing it. Even two of her brothers had talked to her on separate occasions about it, but no one ever did anything that was impactful enough to make her stop. So we don't have a relationship, and to this day, she's never owned doing what she did. And it's hard because I was having a discussion today. I think somewhere in the back of my mind, the little boy in me still wants that family connection. And both my parents have both felt like the AIDS was my destiny because I was gay. And so the idea of not having that family connection is it's a little tough, especially around the holiday time. It's a little tough. And even though I'm 45 now and I should be over it, as a therapist told me this afternoon, it's still something that I struggle with because when I go to my best friend's house, I'm in the same town that my mom and my family is, and I don't go there. So it's a little tough.
Right. Well, what I remember you saying in the book that you tried to rectify things with your father, but it was really hard.
I did. You know, my issues with him, as my best friend pointed out when I came home, were the issues between him and my mother, with him being so abusive. And we had when I wrote him the letter on my best friend's persistence, to this date, we've never talked about the letter. But once we connected, we had a very good relationship. Put me back in touch with my family in the city. I hadn't seen my grandmother since I was 7. Great relationship. But I was in the hospital with a back issue in 2009. And he was on my job's information as my emergency contact. And they called him to let him know I was being rushed to the hospital. And he and my stepmom came down. My best friend and her mom came from Virginia. And my friend I was working with followed the ambulance. And she called 2 of my gay friends to the hospital. One was in banking. One worked at Goodyear, professional, non-flamboyant, but you could tell they were gay. They came in and spoke to everyone they knew and was introduced to him and my stepmom. And he kind of just fell back. I didn't really notice it at the time, but when I went home to Philadelphia for Christmas the next year, I was saying to my aunt, I said, your brother is just not responding to my calls anymore. He doesn't answer my calls. Like, seriously, what is going on? And she said, well, I'm not saying that this is the reason, which really is always the reason. She said, but everybody in the South doesn't accept the gay lifestyle. And I said, what are you talking about? Because we discussed it and it was okay. She said, but didn't you have 2 gay friends come to the hospital when he was there? And I said, I had other friends there also. Why were they the ones, the focal point of your conversation? So then I understood. So we haven't spoken since 2009. And it's been sad because even though I didn't have it in my life from 6 to 32, when we started to talk, we had a very good relationship. My stepmom and I were just the closest. Like I said, it put me back in touch with my family in the city. And I would go up to his house. They lived in Roxborough. I would go up there and my stepmom would cook for me. And it was just a very good relationship. So I hate that it ended because he didn't although he knew I was gay, seeing 2 of my friends made him uncomfortable, which I still don't understand the connection with that. But